Rogue has completely gone rogue, literally. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lawrence Report. On tonight's broadcast, discussing episode 7 of X-Men 97. You already know what I'm about to say. This was another good episode of X-Men 97, and they are not missing. There were so many themes. I gotta talk about the themes. I don't know if y'all are just watching the show because it's just a cartoon, but the way these writers at Marvel and just the way the whole stratosphere of the X-Men, how they pull in real world themes, absolutely incredible in itself. Did y'all see when Rogue, we're gonna break down the episode, but did y'all see when Rogue was talking to Captain America? She was like, listen, I gotta know, are you standing with us, the mutants, or are you just going to play a government puppet? Are you just going to continue to be a top cop for the government? So Rogue wants to know, Captain America, whose side are you on? You're supposed to be with us. And did you also see the theme about Beast and the MLK quote that he gave? You know what? I'm going to let y'all listen to it. Y'all listen to it.
The priority for the foreseeable future must be damage control.
How tall order when mutants everywhere are taken to the streets.
Riots are the language of the unheard.
Martin Luther King. But smashing windows is destruction, not communication. Normal people won't accept mutants if they feel threatened. That fear is the whole issue.
Perhaps the professor's vision for the future was too nearsighted, and begging for your tolerance was our first mistake.
And that quote right there in itself can go back to with the uprising of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Some people was upset that you're damaging property and things of that nature right there. But what do you do whenever people has been oppressed for so long and you ignore them in a silence? Eventually, they're going to fight back whether you like it or not. Maybe they may not protest the way you want to be, but they are going to come out and stand up for themselves, because these people, my people that look like me, we're not just going to continue to lay down. We're not doing the MLK turn the other cheek. And even Cyclops, did y'all see Cyclops? Cyclops even admitted himself that, yeah, Magneto was right. Oh my God. The themes in this episode, the themes in every episode of X-Men have been crazy. Even with Sunspot, in this episode, we saw him finally coming out, right? He's gay, right? But Jubilee told him, like, hey, this goes back to the Pulse nightclub shooting, for example, right? She told him, like, listen, I would hate, because it was in Genosha, right? And she was like, I would hate for your parents to find out that, you were gay, on the news or whatever. Like, I'd rather for you to come out and live your truth. Oh, the themes, y'all. It's not just a cartoon. It's not just a cartoon. They are pulling real world stuff, y'all. But let's get into X-Men 97. So at the very beginning of this episode, we're still dealing with everything that happened in Genosha. We are actually at a funeral. It's actually the funeral of the one and only Gambit, the Raging Cajun himself. He passed away due to the death with the Sentinels, and that was his final battle. And we have the one and only Nightcrawler, basically, having a benediction over his funeral. They couldn't have picked a better person, I think, to, lay the groundwork of just who Gambit was at the end of the day. When he was a strong character, a lot of fans love him, one of my favorite characters. And, while he's being buried, it's a very emotional scene, right? And Jubilee wants to know, why isn't Rogue here? Like, because Gambit saved all of us. He kind of like gave the ultimate sacrifice for a lot of us, right? And Wolverine tells her that, listen, everybody has to deal with their own healing process on their own. He's right. Some people grieve different in different type avenues, right? So we do want to find out, why Rogue was not at the funeral. The main reason why, Rogue is hell-bent, and she is on a solo mission herself to find out where Gyrick is, right? So she ends up going to his military base, and she ends up seeing General Ross there. And General Ross is like, oh yeah, with this base, it's, with this base right here, we kind of built it for the Hulk. Like, nobody can penetrate this base, right? About that. Actually, Rogue penetrates that base like it's nobody business. She takes down these soldiers, and she's asking, where is Gyrick at? She wants that location immediately. And it turns out that Gyrick, is allegedly, they thought he was in this another location. And she gets to another base, but this base is like a snow-capped base. And we end up seeing Rogue there, but she also is being greeted by the first Avenger himself. I'm talking about the one and only Captain America. He's there, and he's like, Rogue, stop. Don't do this. And she's like, well, what is, America's top cop doing all the way out here? And when she said that, I was like, she is not holding no punches back right now. Rogue is about that action. Rogue is standing on business. She don't care who in her way, even if it is Captain America, right? And he's like, well, yeah, I've been out here trying to look for him myself, and I got my team, and we're trying to do this. And Cap is like, he's kind of dumbfounded, the way Rogue is going at him, right? Rogue, she ends up getting intel from Cap, and Cap tells her that Gyrick is out there in Mexico City. And Rogue is like, yo, let's go get him then. And Cap is like, well, me and my team is kind of already working on that, and me going in with you kind of sends the wrong message right there. We're just going into there and we're bashing heads, right? And Rogue is like, oh, so you're not standing with us? Like, whose side are you on, Cap? She's kind of challenging him, to pick a side. He's like, well, I gotta go by the book, and my hands are tied, being a true Boy Scout, right? And Rogue's like, oh, okay, since your hands are so-called tied, well, I guess you're not gonna be needing this shield right here. So she takes that shield, she launches that shield all the way from that military base to back to Wakanda. No, I don't know where the shield went at. I'm just saying it might have went back to Wakanda. Rogue is fed up. She's like, listen, I ain't got time for you, Cap, and your team. We could have got them together, Cap, but since you can't do it, I'll do it myself. So now Rogue is on her way to Mexico City to handle business. Let's switch gears and talk about the other X-Men. We will come back to Rogue, right? So now Scott is asking help from the UN. He wants more people out there to try to find survivors from Genosha, but the UN, at the time, the president is like, listen, it's y'all are basically on your own. And he tells Scott, due to the optics of this thing right here, I really can't be helping y'all out. And he keeps saying you're kind. I hate when he kept saying you're kind. That absolutely irritated me right there, right? And Scott was like, listen, I guess if it was more human bodies out here, you'd be willing to get out here and send these troops in to help people we'll try to find people from underneath this rubble in Genosha. And I think maybe because it's like an election year, that's why, the president's really not trying to help, Scott and them out. But he kept saying the words, you're kind of aggravated me so much. Scott just got frustrated. He realized that to do this right here, he's on his own. Him and the team, they are on their own. So they end up going to Genosha, trying to find, any people that may have been left over from the rubble in Genosha. And they do end up finding Emma Frost. She is there. She is in her diamond form. So she was one of the few people that they were able to find back in Genosha. Beast is one of my favorite all-time X-Men characters, right? His intellect is far beyond absolutely incredible, right? He even quotes MLK, when they're down at where people from Genosha had passed away. He's walking around with Trish, right? He quotes this quote right here, and it goes like this. He says, and Dr. King says, riots are the voice of the unheard. And that right there goes back to the Black Lives Matter movement, if you ask me, and civil rights, right? And, Trish is talking about this fear and stuff like that. And Beast lets her know that, well, maybe it was my tolerance, maybe my tolerance, has been, not as good as I thought it possibly could be, right? And Trish is kind of offended by it. But at the same time, she tells him that people are fearful, right? And yeah, they may be fearful, but people have been disenfranchised in Genosha for so long, and Beast is completely fed up with Trish. She's like, I'm sorry, if my tolerance level is offending you, then so be it. Like, I gotta rally and stand up for my people. And I think everybody in this episode are all starting to realize, except for I think it's maybe a couple, some people, not I should say, some people are starting to realize that Magneto was truly right. While they're down there in Genosha, there was news that there was a survivor. Like I said earlier, it was Emma Stone, but at the same time, Scott thought that it might have been Madeline Pryor, so he's kind of emotional, right? But they also get a message from the Blackbird, and it ends up being Trask, and he tells them, the X-Men, that I need them to come to Manipur to basically, try to stop everything that's about to happen with these Sentinels. And he talked about how he was being used and all this other stuff. So the team's like, okay, well, I guess we got to head down to Mandapore, right? But also, let me talk about this right here. I think I kind of forgot to mention this. We saw Sunspot and Rogue, right? I'm going to say Sunspot and Jubilee. I'm sorry, Sunspot and Jubilee. Jubilee has been trying to convince Sunspot for a long time to come out and to tell his parents that, he is a mutant, right? And she tells him, I would hate for your parents to find out that you are a mutant due to you being shot or killed down here in Genosha, being on the news, right? He does finally get the courage to tell his mother that he is a mutant. But the mom already lets him know that I've been known. This ain't nothing new to me. Like, I'm glad you live in your truth, but I've been known that you was a mutant. So shout out to Jubilee for encouraging him to let him know that it's okay to walk in your truth as a mutant. But even the mother was like, well, we can't let this secret get out. It has to stay between the family. But, I'm pretty sure we're going to explore that later on, that Sunspot is eventually going to let the entire world know. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about his mom's, well-being when it comes to her job and things of that nature. He wants everybody to know that he is a mutant. The entire world, actually. As far as Rogue, she is still dealing with, all these deaths between Magneto and Gambit. And we end up seeing Nightcrawler and the rest of the team. They come to her side. They're, there for her in her time of need. And, Nightcrawler tries to give her some encouraging words, but, she literally falls into his arms and she is just exploding with tears. Like, oh my God, and as the team continues to travel on this episode, they end up tracking down the one and only Trask. And in this episode right here, Rogue couldn't hold it in no more. Ended up tracking down Trask, like I said, and he wants to commit suicide. But Rogue is like, listen, let me get some information out of you before you think about committing suicide. And they get the information about the Prime Sentinels, right? And Rogue, she's holding this guy up by his collar. And after she gets that, she lets him fall down. But it turns out he is not about to die. Morph is like, yo, is that who we are? And Wolverine is like, well, this is really who we really want to be. But Rogue just basically just gave us opportunity to be it. And then we end up seeing Trask transform into like a Prime Sentinel, and there's an all-out war between the X-Men, and it is absolutely crazy. And we end up seeing Cable. Cable comes through in the clutch, trying to save the team. He throws out this some type of grenade or something like that, right? And that grenade is basically able to stop Trask for the time being, right? And later on, we end up seeing Bastion. He's talking to Mr. Sinister, talking about the plans and things of that nature right there. And then when we get to the end, we end up seeing, we thought this guy might have been gone. Magneto. Bastion has Magneto in his hands. He's giving him a shave. And that's how this episode ends. So, crazy episode. Great episode. Loved it. Marvel has to hire Bo DeMeo back. I'm sorry. They got to hire him back. Love this episode so much. And as always, thank you for tuning into the Lawrence Report.